Welcome to an overview of the Mississippi River Upper Pool 4, Pierce County Islands, head of Lake Pepin, Backwater Complex Project. This is a joint study with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. The Lake Pepin Legacy Alliance, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and Audubon, Minnesota are key stakeholders in this effort as well. This presentation is provided in lieu of a public meeting during the public review period due to statewide pandemic restrictions. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of the alternatives evaluated, describe the details of the preliminary plan, and to solicit your input. The public review period is 30 days and began on April 10th, 2020. The last day to submit comments is May 11th, 2020. The feasibility report and appendices can be found at the Public Notices link at the St. Paul District Corps of Engineers homepage. The address is www.mvp.usac.army.mil/home/publicnotices.aspx. There are three ways that you can provide input. You can submit questions and comments by phone, email, or written correspondence. Steve Clark is the project biologist and the main point of contact. He can be reached by email at stephen.j.clark@usace.army.mil or by phone at 651-290-5278. Formal written correspondence may be submitted to the St. Paul District Corps of Engineers, attention Regional Planning and Environmental Division North, 180 5th Street East, Suite 700, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55101. Topics covered in this presentation are similar to what would be presented at a public meeting. A brief project background will be covered to orient you. The alternatives considered during the planning process will be described, and a description of the tentatively selected plan, as shown on the graphic on the right, will be provided. The status of the project's environmental compliance will be presented. An overview of the project schedule will be shown, and the presentation will end with questions and answers to mimic the public input process. There is a long history of interest in an ecosystem restoration project in the Lake Pepin area. The Lake Pepin Legacy Alliance, Minnesota Audubon, Wisconsin, and Minnesota Departments of Natural Resources and other stakeholders work together to garner support for this study. This feasibility study formally kicked off in 2017 under the Continuing Authorities Program Beneficial Use of Dredge Material Authority, also known as CAP 204. This authority allows the Corps to construct ecosystem restoration projects using material dredged out of the 9-foot navigation channel. The benefits to projects constructed under this authority is that much of the cost of the sand is covered by the Corps' operation and maintenance funding. During the planning process for this study, the team applied for acceptance into the Section 1122 pilot program and was one of 10 projects selected nationally and the only study on the Mississippi River. The purpose of Section 1122 funding is to cover additional transportation and placement costs of material dredged from the navigation channel that are above the CAP 204 authority limit. This is key because it is no small task to transport the material to the project location. The study area is located near the head of Lake Pepin in Upper Pool 4 of the Mississippi River. Pool 4 is part of the Navigation Channel project and stretches 44 miles long from Lock and Dam 3 north of Red Wing, Minnesota, to Lock and Dam 4 south of Wabasha, Minnesota. Proposed project features would be located in a backwater area called Catherine Pass, just south of Bay City, Wisconsin, within the Pierce County Island Complex. The sand to build the proposed features would be barged from Reed's Landing near Wabasha, 23 miles up to Catherine Pass. The main problems driving impacts to the environment in Pool 4 are sedimentation and sediment resuspension. Sediment, originating mainly from the Minnesota, Cannon, and Vermilion rivers, as well as shoreline erosion, has degraded conditions in a number of ways, such as increasing turbidity, reducing water depths, and reducing light penetration for aquatic plants. You can see in their aerial image how sediment-laden water enters Catherine Pass through Catherine Cut and forms a plume of cloudy, turbid conditions. Over time, sedimentation can reduce water depths. The water depth or bathymetry map shows depths in the study area are quite shallow. Average depths are less than 3 feet, and there is a lack of deep water areas. This project could result in a number of good opportunities for the area. For example, Pool 4 has an excess of dredge material that could be immediately made available for this project. This project would also leverage non-federal partnerships. Our partners include the non-federal sponsor, the Wisconsin DNR, as well as the Lake Pepin Legacy Alliance. The Alliance was granted funding from the state of Minnesota's Lessard-Sams Outdoor Heritage Council to be applied to this project. It has also secured pledges from the city of Red Wing, the villages of Bay City and Stockholm, and Pepin County. A project would also provide increased recreation opportunities, such as birdwatching, hunting, fishing, and boating. The access dredging proposed would also improve small boat navigation at the head of Lake Pepin, as well as to the Bay City Public Boat Launch and Campground. To address the problems in the study area, the team developed 7 objectives that focus on the habitats found in the project area. The aquatic vegetation objectives are to 1. Increase the health, diversity, and acreage of emergent and floating leafed aquatic vegetation, and 2. Increase the health, diversity, and acreage of submerged aquatic vegetation. The wetland habitat objective is to improve and increase the quantity and quality of wetland habitat for backwater waterfowl species. The shoreline habitat objective is to protect existing shoreline habitat and increase the linear feet of sheltered bank and associated littoral habitat for use by marsh and water birds, shorebirds, aquatic mammals, amphibians, and reptiles. The floodplain forest habitat objective is to improve and increase the overall health and quantity of the floodplain forest. The fish habitat objectives are to improve or maintain the quantity and quality of habitat for riverine aquatic species and increase the quantity and quality of the backwater fish habitat. During the Corps' planning process, the Corps, agencies, and partners developed 3 primary strategies, or iterations, to reach a final set of alternatives. The first strategy was to evaluate the Pierce County Island Complex overall and brainstorm a broad array of features. This first iteration exceeded the study scope, cost, and constructability constraints. For the second iteration, the team identified priority areas. Catherine Pass was designated as Priority Area 1. Wakuta Bay was designated as Priority Area 2. Catherine Pass is unique to Pool 4 as it is already somewhat protected, and improvements here could have a big response compared to other parts of the area. In the third iteration, the team further screened different ideas by evaluating the inclusion or exclusion of specific measures. Additional details can be found in Section 3 of the main report. After Iteration 3, the remaining measures were combined to form standalone alternatives, from the smallest increment at Alternative A to the largest increment at Alternative F. A cost-benefit analysis was done on the final 6 alternatives. Benefits were calculated using habitat units. A habitat unit is a metric of quality and quantity of habitat produced. Habitat units are annualized by totaling the cumulative benefits of each alternative across a 50-year period of analysis. This calculation results in the average annual habitat units, or AAHUs. AAHUs are a way benefits of an ecosystem restoration project are measured in lieu of monetary value. The benefits are compared against the cost of an ecosystem restoration project to determine if it's worth making a federal investment. Each alternative's first cost, simplified to mean construction costs, and the alternative's benefits are compared. The first three rows of the table present the results of the analysis. For alternatives A, C, D, and F were identified as best buys. These are the alternatives that give the biggest bang for the buck and have the least cost per AAHU. Other metrics the team used to compare the four best buy alternatives are the amount of dredged material used measured in cubic yards, the extent that each alternative met the four federal principles and guidelines, or P&G criteria, and the extent that each alternative met the study's objectives. The team selected Alternative D as the tentatively selected plan, or the TSP. This alternative would achieve most of the project objectives and produce significant habitat benefits compared to the cost to construct. It meets all of the principles and guidelines criteria. After the study team established that Alternative D is the TSP, it was refined to include minor additions that would better address access and improve construction efficiencies. The main features of the tentatively selected plan are four peninsulas constructed out of sand from the navigation channel, refuge dredging to improve habitat for migratory waterbirds, a water level management dike with a 36-inch diameter culvert with a stop log structure, an access road to operate and maintain the water level management features, two backwater dredged areas that are up to 8 feet in depth to improve overwintering habitat for fish, shoreline protection in 3 areas that were identified as having low or eroded shorelines, a mud flat, access dredging up to 6 feet in depth for construction features and flow conveyance, and a partial closure in Catherine Cut. The land needed for the project features and construction access is mostly owned by the state of Wisconsin. Easements would be needed from Bay City for the staging area and the access road to the water level management dike. The total project cost for this plan is estimated at $24.4 million. The annual operation and maintenance of the project by the Wisconsin DNR is estimated at $3,500. This project will produce an estimated increase in habitat benefits of 286 average annual habitat units. This translates to a cost-benefit ratio of $2,800 per habitat unit. Project costs are shared by 3 funding sources. The Corps' Operation and Maintenance Program would fund close to $5 million. The Section 1122 program could cover $14 million, and the Wisconsin DNR would fund the remaining $5 million. The full details of the tentatively selected plan can be found in Section 4 of the main report. The draft report and environmental assessment is currently out for public review and comment as part of the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA process. Comments received will be addressed and incorporated into the final report. The environmental assessment portion of the main report describes the potential effects to resources including endangered species, fish and wildlife, water quality, historic properties, and others. The project will comply with all environmental compliance requirements and has been coordinated with state and federal agencies. Prior to construction, a Chapter 30 permit and water quality certification will be obtained from the Wisconsin DNR. Sections 5 and 6 of the main report explain the status in more detail. The schedule for project completion is presented here. After the report completes the 30-day public review period, comments will be reviewed, addressed, and incorporated into the main report. It is anticipated that the final report will be submitted to the Corps' regional office for approval at the beginning of summer 2020. Before detailed design and engineering work can begin, the Corps would need to sign a project partnership agreement with the Wisconsin DNR. Additionally, Section 1122 funding would need to be congressionally appropriated. Once the project partnership agreement is signed, the team could begin design, which is tentatively scheduled for fall 2020. The target for construction contract award is spring 2021. Construction could start as soon as summer 2021. Construction is anticipated to take 3 to 5 years to complete. The team has prepared 5 frequently asked questions with answers. Question 1. Why is there a partial closure in Catherine Cut, and how does it work? The partial closure at Catherine Cut is needed for 2 reasons. First, it would help to reduce the sediment load entering the project area. Secondly, it would help to stabilize the access dredge cut post-construction. A good example of what a partial closure looks like once constructed is shown circled in red. This image is from the Long Lake project in Pool 7 on the Mississippi River. The Long Lake project's partial closure was designed to deflect sediment downstream and has proven to be very effective in reducing sediment deposition in that channel. The partial closure on this project would be constructed out of rock that is 1 to 2 feet in diameter and contains 3 basic features. A rock deflector that would deflect sediment from entering Catherine Pass. The structure would be above the water and only submerged in high flow events. In the last 20 years, it would have been submerged only 7% of the time. An area of shoreline protection would stabilize the shoreline on the opposite bank of the deflector, and a rock liner would tie into the deflector and the shoreline protection to create a hardened cross-section that would minimize future channel scour in this area. The liner would be 5.5 feet below the water during low control pool conditions and would not prohibit boater access. The Catherine Cut partial closure is expected to have similar success as the Long Lake project at reducing sediment deposition in this channel. Without the Catherine Cut partial closure, the dredged access channel through this cut would be filled in to the existing depth in 12 to 15 years. Question 2. How will this project affect boater access in the area? During project construction, there may be some restrictions on boater access in the project area and at the Bay City boat landing. Most construction activities will happen during the work week. After the project is constructed, boat access in the area will be improved. The access cuts shown on the plan in blue will be deeper channels that are lacking in most of the project area. Access from the Bay City boat landing out to the main channel through Catherine Cut will be greatly improved as shown in orange. Question 3. Will this project make the lake's sediment problem worse? This project is not expected to negatively impact sedimentation in Lake Pepin. Rather, this project would use material that has been removed from the lake in a way that preserves and improves habitat at the head of the lake. The sediment analysis that was done as part of the project suggests that project features would minimally impact the movement of sediment. This photo illustrates the existing path of fine or silty sediment. It is expected that the flow pattern would remain largely unchanged with the project. fine sediment would continue to flow through Catherine Cut, past Bay City, and rejoin the Wisconsin Channel. The partial closure is the only project feature that would lead to a small increase in sediment accumulating a short distance downstream from Catherine Cut. This animation illustrates the coarse sandy sediment movement currently. Without a project in place, the sediment travels down the Wisconsin Channel and is deposited in Catherine Cut and an area just downstream of the project area. This animation illustrates the anticipated path of the coarse sediment if the partial closure is constructed in Catherine Cut. The deflected coarse sediment traveling down the Wisconsin Channel would settle out rather quickly and be deposited a short distance downstream. The fraction of sediment deposited downstream is small enough that the adverse impacts to the lake relative to what is already occurring is nearly indistinguishable. In other words, if all of the sediment currently entering Catherine Cut was deflected downstream, the amount of sediment deposited in Lake Pepin would be increased by approximately 0.2%. The Corps does not have authority to address upstream sources of sediment. However, the Corps can build high-quality ecosystem restoration projects on the Mississippi River to directly improve habitat. This project is an example of that. If dredge material can be used beneficially as part of this project, there is a benefit to navigation and channel maintenance as well. Question 4. How will construction activities impact the use of the area? There will be short-term negative effects to both the environment and the general public throughout the construction period. However, the long-term benefits outweigh those impacts by providing improved aquatic vegetation, wetland and fish habitat, floodplain forest, and recreational boating access. Dredge material will be transported mechanically via barge and towboat from Reed's Landing. Access dredging is anticipated to ensure that material barges and towboats can reach all of the features for construction purposes. This will have a short-term impact on water quality due to the soft substrate. In addition, tow traffic will inevitably stir up the river bottom in shallow areas. Barge cycling throughout the project area will likely cause a temporary impact to recreational river use within the project area throughout the construction period. The contractor will have to identify a staging area for employee parking, an office trailer, and a rock loading area, likely in the vicinity of the campground. While use of the campground and boat launch could be maintained during construction, individuals would need to maintain a safe distance from construction equipment throughout the construction period. Question 5. Is the sand for the project contaminated? The sand from the main navigation channel that would be used as fill for creating features in this project has undergone routine periodic testing for contaminants as part of the Corps' dredging program. The test results confirm that the material is acceptable for habitat restoration use with very low or non-detectable levels of contaminants. Testing was also performed on the fine-grained sediments within Catherine Pass that would be dredged and used for topsoil. A few metals such as manganese and cadmium and some organic contaminants were found in concentrations that may have some effect on aquatic invertebrates. However, the material found in Catherine Pass is mostly clean, and any disturbance of the sediment due to construction would be temporary. Additional detail on sediment quality and test results can be found in Appendices B and G of the main report. The Corps of Engineers, the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, the Lake Pepin Legacy Alliance, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and Audubon, Minnesota, thank you for your interest in this important project. We look forward to hearing from you.